Her best friend called me a loser at a party right in front of her. She just laughed and said, "He tries his best with what little he makes." I didn't respond, just took my jacket and left her there with her empty designer purse I'd filled earlier. 3 days later, she was posting about being publicly humiliated when the waiter asked for her card, and it was declined in front of all her luxury lifestyle followers who didn't know she was just dating my bank account. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. Throw away for obvious reasons. Though at this point, I don't really care if she ever reads this. This is gonna be a long one, so buckle up. I've spent months debating whether to share this story, but after seeing a post on r/relationships yesterday about someone in a similar situation, I figured maybe my experience could help someone else stand up for themselves. Sometimes it takes hearing someone else's story to realize you're not crazy for having boundaries. Not sure if this belongs in r/relationships, r/pro-revenge, or r/AITA, but here goes nothing. So I, 38 male, I own a custom furniture business that I built from absolute zero. Started in my parents' garage 12 years ago, making tables from reclaimed wood I'd salvaged from demolition sites and old barns. I was working 2 jobs back then, doing construction during the day and building furniture at night. Slept maybe 4 hours a night for the first 3 years. My dad thought I was insane for quitting a stable construction job to make fancy tables nobody would buy. My mom was more supportive, but worried I'd end up broke and move back home. My first real break came when a local restaurant owner saw a table I'd made for my sister and commissioned 6 for his new place. I made $3,400 profit and used every cent to buy better tools. Growing up, we never had much. My dad worked at the same factory for 35 years, and my mom cleaned houses. They busted their asses to make sure we had food on the table and clothes on our backs, but there was never anything extra. I got my first job at 14, working at a hardware store after school. By 16, I was helping a local contractor on weekends. I learned more on those job sites than I ever did in school. There's something about creating something with your own hands that always made sense to me. While other kids were dreaming about being doctors or lawyers or whatever, I was sketching furniture designs in the margins of my notebooks. My shop teacher, Mr. Reynolds, was the only one who ever encouraged me. "You've got a gift, Jack," he used to say. "Don't waste it." Today, I've got a 6,000 square foot workshop, 18 employees, and we make high-end pieces for celebrities, tech executives, and luxury hotels that pay anywhere from $15,000 for a dining table to $60,000 for complete custom room sets. Not private jet rich, but I'm doing pretty well for a guy who barely finished high school and grew up in a double wide. My company's grown about 40% year over year for the last 5 years. I bought my house outright 3 years ago. Nothing flashy, just a 3-bedroom craftsman on a nice quiet street with a big garage I converted into a home workshop. I drive a 2020 F-150 that's usually covered in sawdust and has tools rolling around in the back. I invest most of my profits back into the business or into real estate. Like I said, not flashy, but solid. I never really cared much about the finer things. Give me a comfortable home, a reliable truck, tools that work, and time to go fishing once in a while, and I'm good. My ex-fiancée, however, had very different priorities. I met Melissa, 33F, at a charity auction where I donated a custom table. She works at Elevation PR, one of those boutique firms that handles image management for wealthy people and luxury brands. She was coordinating the event, saw me setting up my piece, and came over to introduce herself. Smart, ambitious, gorgeous in that polished kind of way, perfect blowout, designer clothes, that whole curated Instagram aesthetic. I'll admit, I was a little starstruck. She seemed so sophisticated, so worldly compared to me. When she laughed at my dumb jokes and seemed genuinely interested in my work, I couldn't believe my luck. On our first date, she asked so many questions about furniture making, my business, my clients. Looking back, I should have realized she was cataloging my value, not getting to know me. Our early dating life was a whirlwind. She took me to restaurants where the menu didn't have prices, introduced me to people whose names I recognized from magazines. It was exciting, I won't lie. Made me feel like I was moving up in the world. My buddies were jealous as hell when they saw her pictures on my phone. "How'd a grunt like you land a woman like that?" they'd joke. I'd laugh it off, but secretly wondered the same thing. The first time I took her to my favorite local burger joint, this hole-in-the-wall place I'd been going to since high school, she picked at her food and spent the whole time on her phone. Later, she suggested we stick to places on her approved list going forward. I didn't think much of it at the time. Just figured she had refined tastes. We hit it off, started dating, and within 6 months, things were getting serious. By our 1 year anniversary, we were engaged. I spent $28,000 on the ring, way more than I was comfortable with, but she had always dreamed of a specific style from Tiffany, and I wanted to make her happy. For context, before Melissa, I'd never spent more than $200 on a gift for anyone in my life. My dad nearly had a heart attack when I told him. The proposal itself should have been another red flag. I'd planned this whole thing at this state park where we'd had a picnic early in our relationship. Sunset, overlooking the lake, the whole 9 yards. She said yes. But later that night, I overheard her on the phone with Heather, complaining that I hadn't hired a photographer to capture the moment for Instagram. The next day, she made me recreate the proposal in a more aesthetic location so she could post it. That was the first time I felt like a prop in her life rather than a partner. Looking back, there were red flags from day one. But you know how it is. When you're wearing rose-colored glasses, red flags just look like flags. She was constantly suggesting I upgrade my truck to a Range Rover, move to a better neighborhood, wear watches that successful men should have. She hated when I'd come home with sawdust in my hair or dirt under my nails, always asking why I needed to do physical work when I could just manage and keep my hands clean. She'd introduce me to her friends as the furniture guy, like I was some quirky hobby she had, not a business owner with twice the annual revenue of her PR firm. When I'd bring friends from my pre-Melissa life around, guys I'd worked construction with, my childhood buddy who runs a plumbing business, she'd be polite to their faces but later ask why I still hung out with people like that when I could be networking with people who matter. As if the people who'd been there for me when I had nothing didn't matter. The first time I took her to my parents' house for dinner, she spent the entire car ride back critiquing my mom's decor, my dad's outdated opinions, and the quaint neighborhood where I grew up. I defended them, but also made excuses for her, telling myself she just came from a different world and didn't mean any harm. One time, my mom called while Melissa and I were at dinner with some of her PR friends. My mom was upset because my dad had fallen off a ladder while cleaning the gutters and was in the ER. Nothing too serious, but she was shaken up. When I told Melissa I needed to go check on them, she made this face and said, "Can't your sister handle it? We're in the middle of something important here." I went anyway, and she didn't speak to me for 2 days after. But I was in love, or thought I was. I figured she just wanted the best for me, wanted to help me level up or whatever. Classic mistake. So last month we're at this cookout at her college friends Tyler and Emma's new place in the suburbs. Nothing special, just burgers and sparkling water, about 15 people total. I'm helping Tyler with his new smoker. Dude dropped $1,800 on it to impress his boss, but has no idea how to use it LMAO, while Melissa's catching up with her PR and college friends. I actually liked Tyler. He seemed like the most down-to-earth of Melissa's friends. Works in finance, but doesn't make his entire personality about it. His wife Emma is sweet too, always makes an effort to include me in conversations when the others start talking about people and places I don't know. "Thanks for helping with this thing," Tyler said, gesturing at the smoker. "I watched like 5 YouTube videos and still couldn't figure it out." "No problem," I told him. "My buddy Mike has the same model. It's all about temperature control. These digital ones are actually trickier than the old school ones." "Melissa says your business is doing really well," he mentioned casually. "Yeah, can't complain. Got a waiting list about 6 months long now." "That's impressive," he said, and I could tell he meant it. "You ever think about expanding? Opening another location?" "Maybe someday," I shrugged. "I like keeping it manageable, you know? Quality over quantity," he nodded. "I respect that. Too many people get caught up in growth for growth's sake." That conversation with Tyler was probably the most genuine interaction I'd had with any of Melissa's friends. Most of them either ignored me or talked to me like I was a curiosity, the blue-collar boyfriend who somehow infiltrated their world. Then Heather shows up. Heather is Melissa's best friend from Northwestern. If Melissa is polished, Heather is polished, shellacked, and lacquered. Everything about her is expensive, and she makes sure you know it, always dropping casual references to her family's summer house on Lake Michigan and her boyfriend who's crushing it in crypto. She's looked down on me from day one because I work with my hands and didn't attend a prestigious university. The first time I met Heather, she asked what I did, and when I told her about my furniture business, she literally said, "Oh, so you're like a carpenter. How authentic." Then proceeded to ask if I'd give her a friends and family discount on a dining table. When I quoted her my standard price, she laughed like I'd told a joke and said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were charging real furniture prices." Whatever that means. Heather's the kind of person who manages to make everything about herself. If you mention you went to Italy, she'll jump in with a story about how she spent a semester in Florence and practically became a local. If you talk about being tired after work, she'll launch into an epic tale of her 80-hour work weeks and how she's literally surviving on La Croix and determination. I've never heard her ask anyone a genuine question about themselves. I'm bringing Melissa a fresh sparkling water when I hear Heather loudly going, "Seriously, Mel, another year without going to Europe? When are you going to stop pretending to be happy with—" She glances at me. "This lifestyle and live a little? My God." Melissa laughs nervously and says, "We're saving for the wedding, and I've got some big client projects." Then Heather literally scoffs and goes, "God, he's such a basic loser. No ambition beyond making fancy tables for actual successful people. You could do so much better with your connections." Everyone goes quiet, like awkward funeral quiet. All eyes on me standing there with the water in my hand, like I'm in some twisted version of a reality show elimination. And Melissa? She fucking laughs. Not nervously. A genuine laugh. Then says, "He tries his best," and takes the water without even meeting my eyes. Like I'm some charity case she's dating out of pity. I stood there for about 5 seconds, put my glass down, grabbed my jacket, and walked straight out. Didn't say a word, didn't look back, just got in my truck and drove home. I remember sitting at a red light about halfway home, hands shaking on the steering wheel, thinking about all the times Melissa had made little comments that suddenly made sense in a new light. How she'd say things like, "You're doing so well for someone without a degree," or "Your business is impressive, considering where you started." Always these little qualifiers that I'd brushed off before, but now saw for what they were. She thought I was beneath her, and she was settling. There was this one time, about a year into our relationship, when we ran into one of her ex-boyfriends at a restaurant. Guy was some investment banker type. Expensive suit, slicked back hair. The works. Melissa introduced me as Jack. He makes furniture. Not her boyfriend, not the owner of a successful business. Just, he makes furniture. The way she looked at that guy, all sparkling eyes and giggles, should have told me everything I needed to know. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my phone was going nuts. 14 missed calls, 27 texts from Melissa. "Where did you go? You're embarrassing me. Stop being so sensitive. You're making a scene without even being here. Call me right now." Not a single, "Are you okay?" or "I'm sorry about what Heather said." Nothing about how she'd laughed or failed to defend me. Just anger that I'd embarrassed her by leaving. I turned my phone off and crashed. Got up at 5 a.m. like usual, did my 5-mile run, showered, made my protein shake. My morning routine has always been my anchor, the thing that keeps me grounded no matter what chaos is happening around me. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were 42 more messages. The last few had changed tone completely. "I'm coming over. Open the door. Why aren't you answering? This is so childish, Jack." I texted back one sentence. "I'll talk when you're ready to act like an adult." Before she arrived, I sat on my back deck drinking coffee, trying to process what had happened. I realized I'd been slowly compromising who I was for years, trying to fit into her world, changing how I dressed, where I ate, who I spent time with, all to make her happy. And in return, she couldn't even defend me to her bitchy friend. I thought about my dad, how he'd look at me if he could see how I'd let myself be treated. He wasn't a perfect man by any means, but he had pride, self-respect, never let anyone look down on him for making an honest living. What would he think of his son letting some PR princess and her snotty friend mock the business he'd built from nothing? She showed up at my door 30 minutes later, all fired up in her Lululemon workout gear, looking like she'd just stepped out of a fitness influencer's page. "What the actual hell, Jack?" she yelled, barging into my house. "You just walked out and left me to deal with everyone asking where you went." "Sounds rough," I said calmly, leaning against my kitchen island. "Having to explain why your fiancé left after being insulted to his face." "You're being ridiculous," she huffed. "It was just Heather being Heather. You know how she gets." "And you? What's your excuse for laughing and saying I try my best? Were you just being Melissa?" "Oh my God, I was just defusing the situation. Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" "Because my fiancé just showed me exactly what she thinks of me in front of all her friends. That I'm someone who tries his best, but still falls short." "You're completely overreacting," she said, dropping onto my couch dramatically. "It was one comment at a stupid party." "It wasn't the comment, Melissa. It was your reaction to it. 2.5 years together, a $28,000 engagement ring on your finger, and you couldn't be bothered to say, "Don't talk about the man I'm going to marry that way." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might fall out of her head. So what? I'm supposed to cause a scene every time Heather says something a little mean? That's just how she is. No, that's how you allow her to be. There's a difference. This is so stupid, she muttered, checking her Apple Watch. I have a client meeting in 2 hours. Don't worry, I'll make this quick. We're done. Her head snapped up. Excuse me? We're done, Melissa. The engagement's off. She stared at me, her expression shifting from annoyed to shocked. You can't be serious. You're breaking up with me over one comment? No, I'm breaking up with you because when someone called me a basic loser to my face, the woman who's wearing my ring laughed and agreed. That tells me everything I need to know about how you really see me. This is insane, she shouted, eyes welling up with perfectly timed tears. You're throwing away our entire relationship over nothing. Not nothing. Self-respect. Jack, baby, she tried, voice suddenly soft as she approached me. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I wasn't thinking clearly. Let's just move past this, okay? We have that dinner with my boss next week. Wear that blue Burberry shirt I got you for Christmas. I stepped back. I won't be attending. Her face hardened instantly. What about the venue deposit? The save the dates went out last month. My parents already paid the caterer $12,000 non-refundable. Should have thought about that before you showed your true colors. You're being so dramatic, she exploded. It was one stupid joke. You know how much this wedding means to me? I've been planning it for a year. That was telling too. Not how much we mean to each other, or how much our relationship means. Just the wedding. The event. The photos. The status symbol. What about the honeymoon? She demanded. The tickets to Santorini are non-refundable. I'm sure Heather would love to go with you, I replied. You two can take all the Instagram photos you want. She gasped like I'd slapped her. How dare you after everything I've done for you? I've introduced you to people who would never have given you the time of day otherwise. I've helped elevate your image. I've made you relevant. And there it was. The mask completely dropped. In her mind, she'd been doing me a favor by being with me, like I was some charity case she'd taken on as a project. I think you should leave, I said quietly. Fine, but don't come crawling back when you realize what you've thrown away, she shouted, grabbing her purse. Good luck finding someone else willing to put up with your sawdust. That was her parting shot. My sawdust. The physical evidence of the work I do, the business I built, the life I made for myself. I almost laughed. She tried everything after that. Crying, with no actual tears, screaming, guilt-tripping, love-bombing. When none of it worked, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard my neighbor texted to ask if everything was okay. Over the next few days, I ignored her calls and texts, focused on a $30,000 conference table commission I had for some tech startup, hit my home gym twice a day, told my shop manager I'd be working from home and handling design work only for a while. I needed time to pack up Melissa's stuff from my place and get my things from her condo. We never officially lived together, thank God, but after 2.5 years, our shit was mixed up. I was methodical about it, boxing everything neatly, making inventory lists. The $28,000 engagement ring she'd left on my bathroom counter the last time she stayed over went into my gun safe. I also spent a lot of time thinking about how I'd ended up with someone who clearly viewed me as a project to fix rather than a partner to love. My buddy Mike, who runs the plumbing business, came over one night and we talked until 2 a.m. He'd never liked Melissa, but had kept quiet because he thought I was happy. She never looked at you like you were enough, man, he said. Always like you were a rough draft she was editing. That hit me hard because it was true. Mike reminded me of something I'd forgotten. 2 years ago, I'd been commissioned to build a custom conference table for the governor's office. It was a big deal. Got written up in the local paper and everything. Melissa hadn't come to the installation because she had an important client meeting. Later, I found out from a mutual friend that she'd actually been at a spa day with Heather. When I asked her about it, she said, I didn't think it was that important. It's just a table. Just a table. Not the culmination of everything I'd worked for. Not a vindication of my decision to start my own business. Just a table. On the third day, I saw it. Melissa had posted on Instagram a long paragraph about being publicly humiliated by her fiancé, who abandoned her at a gathering over a harmless joke. How she was blindsided by my toxic masculinity and emotional immaturity. Her comment section was blowing up, mostly her PR friends and sorority sisters offering support, calling me controlling, insecure, fragile. Heather's comment was especially rich. You're too good for him anyway. Men who can't take a joke are walking red flags. Now you can get a real man who matches your ambition. I didn't respond online. Instead, I texted Melissa. I'll be dropping your things off tomorrow at 6. The ring is in the small box with your name on it. Please have my vintage leather jacket, tools, and the signed baseball ready. She replied immediately, we need to talk about this face to face. Stop hiding. I didn't take the bait. Just repeated, 6 p.m. Have my stuff ready. She sent back a string of messages trying every angle, threatening to tell her side to all our mutual friends, as if she hadn't already, saying she was worried about my mental health, classic gaslighting, suggesting we go to couples therapy, too late, and finally offering to forgive me if I apologized for overreacting. I didn't respond to any of it. Some mutual friends started reaching out, most taking her side without even asking for mine. One guy I'd known for years texted, dude, you can't just walk out on your fiancé over nothing. Man up and apologize. I blocked him. A few people were more measured, asking what happened, but I didn't have the energy to explain. The truth would come out eventually. I hit the gym harder than I had in years, threw myself into work, started sketching designs for pieces I'd always wanted to make but never had time for. It was cathartic, creating something beautiful out of raw, imperfect materials. There's a metaphor in there somewhere. When I arrived at her condo the next evening, she was waiting. She'd done herself up, hair blown out, full makeup, wearing the black dress she knew I liked, expensive perfume filling the room. Classic Melissa manipulation tactics I'd seen work on me too many times before. Jack, she started, voice gentle. This has gone too far. We need to talk. I'm just here for my stuff, I said, placing the boxes of her things in the entryway. Please, 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I checked my watch. 10 minutes. She launched into a clearly rehearsed speech about how sorry she was, how she'd been caught off guard by Heather's rudeness, how she'd reflected deeply on her behavior and realized she needed to set better boundaries with toxic friends. I've even texted Heather, she continued, told her she needs to apologize to you. She's agreed to meet us for brunch on Sunday and make things right. I almost laughed. You still don't get it. This isn't about Heather. I know. It's about my reaction. And I'm truly sorry, Jack. It will never happen again. You're right about that, I said, looking around. Where's my stuff? She blinked, thrown off script. I thought we'd be resolving this. The only thing that needs resolving is returning my possessions. Where's my signed Derek Jeter baseball? My grandfather gave me that before he died. She crossed her arms. I don't know where it is right now. We can look for it after we fix things between us. That's when I knew she was holding my stuff hostage to keep me engaged. There's nothing to fix, Melissa. We're done. Jack, please, she said, suddenly teary-eyed. I love you. Doesn't that count for anything? Love without respect isn't love. It's just convenience. Her desperation shifted to anger. Fine. You want to throw away everything we built because your fragile ego got bruised? Good luck finding someone else who puts up with your blue-collar lifestyle and your refusal to network or advance yourself. I nodded. Thank you for confirming my decision. You'll regret this, she hissed. When you're old and alone with nothing but your precious sawdust for company, you'll remember the woman who tried to make you better. Better, I repeated. Or just different. More like the men in your world? Tell me something, Melissa. If I'd shown up at that cookout in a designer suit, with an Ivy League degree and a corner office, would Heather still have called me a loser? Would you still have laughed? She didn't answer, but her face told me everything I needed to know. As I headed for the door, she played her final card. What about our trip to Santorini next month? The flights were $4,000 non-refundable. The villa is paid for. Everyone's expecting us to post about it. I turned back. Everyone? You mean your Instagram followers? Heather? Her silence was answer enough. Enjoy Greece, I said, closing the door behind me. As I drove home, I felt this strange mix of sadness and relief. Sad that the person I thought I'd spend my life with didn't exist, but relieved to be free of the constant subtle undermining, the feeling that I was never quite good enough no matter how successful my business became. I realized I'd been holding my breath for 2.5 years, trying to measure up to a standard that kept moving. The fallout was brutal, but predictable. More social media posts painting me as the villain. Mutual friends taking sides. Her mother calling to tell me I was making a catastrophic mistake over a tiny misunderstanding, and that I'd never find anyone like Melissa again. Thank fucking God for that. I stayed quiet, focusing on my business, reconnecting with old friends I'd neglected, working out daily, rebuilding my life without the constant criticism and suggestions for improvement. I even started taking an evening woodworking class, not for the skill building, obviously, but for the community. Made some good friends there who appreciated craftsmanship and didn't care what watch I wore. I reconnected with people from my old neighborhood, guys I'd grown up with who'd seen me hustling from day one. We went fishing, talked shit, laughed about old times. No one asked about my personal brand or suggested I needed a makeover. It was like remembering who I really was after years of slow erasure. My sister came over one weekend to help me rearrange my house, get rid of the little touches Melissa had added that never felt right. You seem lighter, she told me, like you got out from under something heavy. She was right. I hadn't realized how exhausting it was, constantly trying to be someone I wasn't. 3 weeks later, something shifted. Melissa's tone on social media changed. No more angry posts about me. Now she was sharing quotes about recognizing your worth and letting go of relationships that no longer serve you. Classic rebrand. Then Emma, Tyler's wife, called me out of the blue. Jack, there's something you should know. After you left the cookout, Heather went off. She spent 30 minutes trashing you to anyone who would listen, saying Melissa was slumming it with a furniture maker when she could be dating hedge fund managers and tech executives. Tyler finally told her to shut up or get out. She went ballistic, saying Melissa deserved better than some loser with sawdust under his fingernails who would never fit in with the right people. That's when Melissa finally defended you, but honestly, it seemed fake as hell. Too little, too late, I said. I know, but that's not why I'm calling. That trip to Santorini? Melissa's been telling everyone it was going to be a surprise engagement trip. I was confused. We were already engaged. Not your engagement to her. Her engagement to you. What are you talking about? Emma sighed. She's been telling everyone that you weren't serious enough about the relationship, that she was going to propose to you in Santorini to move things along. She had a whole photo shoot planned with a photographer she hired to capture the moment for Instagram. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. But I already proposed. I already gave her a $28,000 ring, which she told everyone she had to settle for because you wouldn't let her help pick out something worthy of her brand. I was stunned. The level of delusion and manipulation was beyond anything I could have imagined. But as bizarre as this was, there was more. Remember how Melissa was always posting those designer bags and shoes on her Instagram? Yeah, so, Jack, she can't afford that stuff on her PR salary. She's been maxing out credit cards in your name for over a year, using them for her image maintenance, as she called it. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What? I never opened any joint credit accounts with her. She didn't need you to. She's been taking pictures of your credit cards and ID while you were sleeping. Tyler overheard her bragging to Heather about it at the party, how she's been investing in her future by building the right image now, and that once you were married, your furniture business would finally be put to good use, funding her lifestyle. I immediately checked my credit report. Sure enough, there were 3 cards I never opened, all maxed out at $25,000 limits. Designer clothes, spa treatments, first-class upgrades, restaurants where she'd gone with clients, but were actually girls' nights with Heather. There's more, Emma continued. That business connection she was always talking about? The one that was going to take your furniture to the next level? It's not real. She and Heather cooked it up to make you think she was essential to your success. They figured once you were married, you'd be grateful enough to fund their influencer lifestyle they've been planning. The pieces all clicked into place. Melissa's constant dissatisfaction with my perfectly successful business, her pushing me to make connections through her, the subtle digs about my clothes, my truck, my house, all while she was secretly stealing from me. Why are you telling me all this? I asked Emma. Because you seem like a good guy who got caught up with someone toxic, and because what they did to you, they'll do to someone else. Tyler and I are done with both of them. We've cut them out completely after what we heard. I appreciate it, I said, genuinely grateful. More than you know. One last thing, Emma added. Check your email. I'm sending you screenshots of conversations between Melissa and Heather that Tyler found when he was helping Heather with her phone at the party. She left it unlocked and he saw your name. He feels terrible about not saying something sooner. The emails arrived an hour later. Reading through them made me physically sick. Screenshots of my credit cards. Jokes about how I was their meal ticket. Plans for how they'd redecorate my house once Melissa moved in after the wedding. A shared Pinterest board called Jack's Makeover, with suits, watches, and even plastic surgery options they thought I needed. The most revealing was an exchange from just 2 days before the cookout. Heather, when are you going to drop this whole charade and find someone on your level? Watching you pretend to be interested in furniture is painful. Melissa, after the wedding, once I'm legally entitled to half the business, I can start making changes. He'll be too grateful to have me to notice. Heather, at least get him to shave that beard and buy some decent clothes before Santorini. I can't tag you in photos with him looking like that. Melissa. Working on it. Baby steps. I sat at my kitchen table staring at my laptop for a long time after reading those messages. Part of me couldn't believe someone could be so calculating and fake for years. Another part of me was relieved to have concrete proof that I hadn't overreacted at the cookout. My gut instinct had been right. I called my lawyer first thing the next morning. A week after discovering the credit card fraud, I was ready. I'd reported the fraud, frozen my credit, and gathered all the evidence, including the texts and emails between Melissa and Heather discussing their schemes. My lawyer was confident we had a solid case for criminal charges if I wanted to pursue them. But I had a better idea. The Johnson contract, a $175,000 deal to furnish an entire Malibu beach house, was something Melissa had been trying to get involved with for months. She was convinced that her PR expertise was essential to landing these high-end clients, even though I'd been getting them just fine before her. Diane Johnson was an interior designer to the stars who'd found my work through Instagram. She'd commissioned me to furnish an entire Malibu beach house, the biggest single contract of my career. Right on schedule, Melissa showed up at my workshop unannounced. My shop manager tried to stop her, but she pushed past. "We need to talk," she insisted, tapping her foot impatiently. "It's about the Johnson contract." I kept sanding the table I was working on. "I'm busy, Melissa. They specifically asked for me to be involved in the presentation. I've been telling them about our engagement for months." "And?" I asked calmly, still not looking up. "And they're expecting both of us at the meeting tomorrow." "I've already confirmed." I finally looked up. "Melissa, I know about the credit cards. I know about the $78,000 of debt you racked up in my name. I know about your plan with Heather to use my business to fund your Instagram lifestyle." The color drained from her face. That's not, I can explain." "No need," I said calmly. "I've already explained it to the police, my lawyer, the credit card companies, and the Johnsons." "Jack, please," she started to cry. "It wasn't stealing. I was building connections for US." I handed her a folder with all the evidence. "You have two options. 1, I press charges. 2, you transfer the balance to your own cards, make a public apology, and leave town." She chose option 2, made a tearful Instagram confession about her mistakes, and left for Ohio to live with her parents. Her PR firm fired her after I showed them evidence of her fraud. Heather's boyfriend dumped her when he discovered her own scams. The Johnson contract led to 3 more major clients. I expanded my workshop and hired 4 more craftsmen. I sold the engagement ring and bought a lake cabin, the perfect weekend getaway to bring my new girlfriend Sarah, an architect I met in my woodworking class who appreciates real craftsmanship and has never once suggested I try my best. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting away, leveling up, and letting karma do the rest while you build something real. Trust your gut, stand up for yourself, and never let anyone convince you that self-respect is negotiable.